Hello, welcome to the talk. My name is Arif Khan. I represent UiPath, and I'm really pleased to be able to talk to you as part of this AI for the North event. I'm a customer success manager at UiPath, which basically means I work with customers, some of our top and largest customers, to really get the best out of automation as a concept, deploy the UiPath platform as broadly as we can and get as much benefit as we can for the customers. In terms of my background, so I think there's two aspects to my background that are relevant. So initially I did computer science at university, and my first few jobs after university were focusing in the AI space. Right, so let's move on. So in terms of what we're going to cover today, there's three main areas I want to speak to you about today. So one is around hyperautomation. What is this term that we're now starting to hear more and more? What does it entail, and what's UiPath's take on it? Second topic will be why I believe RPA and AI need each other, and why there is a natural coming together. Third item will be a product focus, where we'll look at one specific item called AI Fabric, and we'll explain to you why UiPath has released this and what problem, business problem, technical problem, DevOps problem is this trying to fix, and how does it address it. At the end of the session, we'll be able to take questions as well. So feel free to ask any of those questions, and myself and Andrew will be here to help and answer those. So let's get into the first topic, which is around hyperautomation. So this is something that Gartner have put out recently, and in fact, they're calling hyperautomation as their number one item in terms of the top 10 strategic technology trends in 2020. So what actually is it? I think it expresses the evolution of RPA, and it expresses the fact that now automation goes more than just what it was before. And what it's really saying is hyper. For me, the hyper refers to a broader scope, but also also a technical depth in terms of capability of what we can do, and also hyper has this connotation of speed and fastness. So I think it's the coming together of those concepts, and what we mean by that is that by adding additional things to the existing RPA framework, by adding, for example, where do I start? Which processes should I automate? There's an area of study and research, and there's some practical solutions as well, systems, products out there, and an area called process mining. Now, process mining is around putting technology solutions that analyze a lot of your underlying data sources and try and automatically work out what your business processes look like by watching and tracking tickets as they go through your various platforms. Now, process mining is something that's been around for over 10 years, but it's now interesting how if you can attach this at the start of your automation journey, it's more powerful. And it's no surprise that UiPath 6 months ago acquired a company, one of the leaders in the process mining space, Process Gold, and we've added it to our platform. So now we have UiPath Process Mining. And that's because we realize if you can help customers with that initial part of the journey, there'll just be more opportunities for automation, and also they'll get better value for money because they'll be picking the right processes to automate, and they'll be able to see, where are the challenges in their current business process and where should they automate. So at the start of it, you add process mining. Then when you start to build your workflows and your robots, you want them to be smarter. Rather than just following a set of rules or a fixed set of instructions, you want your robots to be able to make judgment-based decisions effectively. Decisions that are not discrete and rule-based, and that are more probabilistic by nature. And of course, to do that, you get into the area of machine learning models. And what we really want in the RPA world, in the UiPath world, for example, is to be able to integrate with those models and make them available for RPA developers to use without having to necessarily understand the data science of how they work. So for us, it's about taking some of these models that are already there and being able to deploy them quickly. At the same time, us as a company need to start investing in some models that are very common, that have a wide applicability. So for example, if you're taking data out of a document such as an invoice, you want to be able to do that without having to define templates for every invoice. These are some areas where UiPath is investing because we want our robots to be smarter effectively. Other areas as well will be, okay, now I've done my automations, I've deployed my robots, but what's my return on investment for all the work I've done here? So the area of analytics and reporting and automation of that, and adding real-time reporting and adding things like predictive analysis to say, well, at the current rate, this is what my savings will be at the end of the year, but if I was to add another 15 robots, it would look like this. I'd realize that saving earlier. Those kinds of conversations, to be able to do that, you need access to those metrics, and that's another area UiPath is focused on. Now, if you add all these areas together, you start to get a platform that is more valuable to the end user. And that's what hyperautomation is really all about. It's really saying that we want to make automation more broadly available to the enterprise. We want it to be rolled out faster, and we want it all integrated as well to provide maximum customer value. So what's UiPath's response to this? Well, for us, we really group our applications then in 6 broad areas. So we're looking at the discovery phase. What should we automate? And there we're adding more AI technology to capture what users are doing and try and intelligently suggest what should be automated. Where are the bottlenecks in their processes? Beyond that, the build stage, I mean, this is the traditional RPA. So this is traditionally where you would put together and you would create your automation. So we have that. In the manage area, which is how you control your automations, this is another area where we've got our AI Fabric offering, which we'll talk about later. And the management that offers is around your machine learning models, how to integrate them, how to retrain them, how to manage versions as well, and look at how often they're used. And then we're in the classical stage of run, which is obviously to run the robots, and then executing. There again, AI comes in because the robots are now able to do smarter things because we've enabled them with more skills, such as being able to intelligently understand what's on the screen in more innovative ways, or also things like being able to use OCR and extract text in a smart way as well. The next vertical we have there is called engage, which is really around human user interaction, which is something I've not touched on really. To really automate business processes, there are often areas that need to be manual for different reasons. Human judgment is involved. Maybe they require a ticket to be set up in an external system, which the robot wouldn't have access to. There are times when a process will stop. Something else needs to be done by a human user, and then another piece of automation can run. Now, traditionally, we would have automated that in sections, and you end up with something quite fragmented. What we're trying to develop at UiPath, and we've got an offering in this space, is to try and manage those end-to-end workflows and to make that handoff between the robot and the user and back to the robot as seamless as possible. So our solution for that is a system called Action Center, or platform called Action Center, where when a robot needs human input, it will create a task in there, and this will act as a sort of an inbox of tasks, if you like, for human users who can come in, see what they need, the robot needs. Maybe it's an approval, maybe it's a validation, maybe it's a prompt to go and do something in another system and then say you've done it, or maybe create a new user in another system where a unique ID will be created and provide that back to the robot. All of that we want to wrap together in one overall process so we can see where the robot is, and we enable that in UiPath through Action Center. And finally, as I touched on, the measuring, your ROI, what are the metrics associated with that? So we have the Insights product to try and make that as simple as possible and as out of the box as possible for our customers. So this is UiPath's kind of holistic view of what RPA is right now. If you had asked me this 6 months ago or seen our offering, they would have only been the build, manage, and run sides of this overview. So just the blue, orange, and red boxes were the 3 that existed. The other areas were not even there. They were part of a vision, but they didn't exist. But this is the broader full suite of how we see automation now. Now I want to just deep dive on one area, and I say deep dive, although it will still be an overview, but process mining will allow you to see what your processes really look like. So what you're seeing on the screen right now is, on the left-hand side, is what a typical process will look like, and this has actually been extracted by our process mining tool, Process Gold, or we now refer to as UiPath Process Mining. And what you'll see is that there's these 5 different stages of an invoice, and you're seeing the numbers in terms of the number of tickets going through these. But what Process Gold allows you to do, our process mining capability, is to expand that out really and say, okay, this is the most common flow, but what are some of the edge cases? What are some of the other conditions in terms of this process? And it allows you to slowly drill in and see more and more detail. And in addition to that, you can also see the rate at which items are flowing through your actual workflow. So if I click play on this, you'll be able to see that you can visually in the process mining solution in UiPath Process Mining see exactly the rate at which items are going through your workflow, and this will allow you to identify bottlenecks, and it will give you insight in your process, which is fantastic for you to make process improvements, maybe remove redundant steps, or understand why it's not a standardized process across your company, for example, but also to know where you want to automate, where to start your automation. And so process mining gives you that whole view on it. And obviously, to be able to put these together in this way, there is AI technology behind this to try and piece together the different parts of a process automatically and display them as one overall view. The next stage I want to highlight in terms of AI is what I was talking to about return on investment. So here's a view of our insights product, which then is around tracking return on investment. Now, some of the data in insights, it's pure data analytics. It's basically taking data from our logs and databases and just grouping them together. There's no real AI there. Where the AI comes in is initially natural language generation, NLG. So as you'll see, some of the commentary around the robots here, that's all generated automatically in terms of what the busiest robots are, how many minutes they've run for, the amount of time and money saved, for example. That is one area we're using AI. Another area we're using AI is in terms of predictive analysis. So yes, I'm getting X million dollars worth of save with my current number of robots across this business process. But with the machine learning, we can start to predict what it will look like in the future. And you can also run scenarios in terms of if you were to increase the number of robots, what that would do to your return on investment. So that's basically our platform. So the discover, the build, the manage, run, engage, and measure phases. And as I mentioned, AI is a key aspect of what we've added. So in the discover what to automate, we've added it there. In the manage phase, in terms of managing machine learning models, we've added some AI there. The running of the robots themselves, they're more AI aware, if you like. They're interacting using voice, text, and other formats. So leveraging AI technology. And then finally, in terms of how we measure the success, there's AI in terms of the machine learning aspects of our analytics as well. So that's how we've kind of added AI to the overall platform and how it's enabled hyperautomation. Now what I want to talk about is RPA and AI and why they need each other. And the best way to demonstrate this is to play a video. So I'm just going to play a video right now.
Once upon a time, there was a dark windowless room where a group of smart data scientists were working extremely hard to create machine learning models to move the business forward. They weren't appreciated for their hard work because whenever a business user came along, they could not easily deploy and use the models to solve their business needs. Back in their room, the data scientists had no clue if and how their models were being used. Meanwhile, in another far-off room, RPA developers had robots busy executing business processes. They worked exceptionally fast. However, sometimes they got stuck while performing the process, unable to progress effectively. They asked their fellow robots, but couldn't get a solution. Data scientists, business users, and robots were all missing something they needed to achieve their goals. That's where AI Fabric came in. AI Fabric, UiPath's machine learning platform, pulls together RPA developers, business users, and data scientists, connecting what would otherwise be separate, helping them work together better. It makes sure machine learning models are used in the right business context and that robots are smart enough to handle exceptions. With AI Fabric, data scientists can easily deploy, manage, and improve machine learning models, spending less time on DevOps and engineering and more time on business problems and use cases. RPA developers select an ML model and then drag and drop it into a workflow, making their robot smarter and enabling the ability to automate more cognitive processes. Now, data scientists know how their models are used in production, and RPA developers know which models are being deployed and when they have been updated. AI Fabric, designed to bring together RPA developers, business professionals, and data scientists for more effective RPA workflows. To learn more, check out AI Fabric on UiPath.com.
So I hope that's got you thinking a little bit there. Yeah, so what we're really saying here is that traditionally AI and machine learning models have been difficult to deploy and integrate in the enterprise. And this is definitely something I witnessed myself as well. The last thing your data scientists want to spend their time doing is integrating their solution with mainframe systems and other web applications. You know, they want to focus on doing the data science, on looking at the data, finding which attributes are relevant, applying different algorithms. That's what you're really paying them for. So the easier you can make that integration, the better. And also from a RPA developer point of view, they want to be able to interact with these machine learning models, but without having to worry about the internals of how they work. There's no good having a machine learning model that can tell whether a transaction is fraudulent or not unless it's empowered to do something about that. So it can make that decision, but then, well, nearly every business decision after it, there needs to be an action. And that action is where RPA often is already in the organization. So by combining these two worlds, we're actually making AI and the machine learning models integrated with the existing business process. And if you're tackling a new problem and now you have the power of machine learning on one side and your integration with RPA on the other, and you can do that in a joined up, easy to deploy way, it's extremely powerful. So let's get into what AI Fabric really is, because that kind of brings this topic home. So this is probably the best way of describing it. So I'll step through these 6 processes really. So initially choose your model. That could be an existing machine learning model built by data scientists in your organization. It could be something that UiPath has provided out of the box, or it could be something provided by a third party, maybe through our community or by a technology partner. We hope people will develop their own models as well that are custom to their business and work specifically for their customer data, but there are other use cases that are broadly applicable, and that we hope that there's reuse there. So the next thing would be to take that model and deploy it on AI Fabric. A very simple process. It's literally packaging up your model in a certain way in a zip file and then uploading it to AI Fabric. And once there, it can then be made available to the end developers, who will then see it in their normal studio, which is where they would normally do their development. That then allows, point 4, it allows the robots then to do things that do require judgment. So for example, email classification, the robots can now analyze the text, apply that machine learning model smartness, and then get a result back about what they should do with that email, maybe move it to a specific folder, and then the robots can action it in the more traditional way they would through RPA. So it really enhances what the bots are able to do. The really interesting side for me then is the next step, which is actually, okay, so I've integrated these two things, but how can I improve my models through what's happening here? And actually, more interestingly, is the process of an RPA execution, so taking, let's say, an invoice, extracting the data, and then it being entered into an end system, does that process naturally help with retraining? And the answer is it does, because often if you're scanning and extracting data from these documents, there'll be a validation step where a user will check the extracted values match up. Sometimes it will be if the machine learning model returns a lower confidence rating. So it might say, well, actually, I think this is the invoice date, but my confidence is I'm only 80% confident. So you can set up exception rules saying for those where the robot is not confident of what it's extracted, a human user should validate and check the data. Now that validation is obviously necessary to get the correct data into your end system, but there's a nice side effect, which is actually now through that validation, I've actually corrected and put the correct value that my machine learning model should have got in the first place. So if I can close that feedback loop, if I can send that back to the start of this, I'll be able to improve my model in theory. Closing that loop and retraining is now actually easier because it's all within the UiPath platform in this example. So it's something that we're working on to allow users to then be able to take the data that their end business users have corrected, and periodically, maybe once a week, once a month, try to retrain their model again based on the correct values that a human validated. And we provide the mechanism for retraining the model, creating a new version, and then redeploying it if you're happy with the results after some testing. So all of that can now be in one platform, which is just extremely powerful. And it also means at that point, the RPA developer is almost self-sufficient to some extent, because they're not having to kind of go back to a data scientist to do the retraining side. So it becomes really interesting. Here we've just listed some of the main benefits. So from a data science point of view, they get their solutions integrated into real business flows. From an RPA point of view, those developers can interact with these models, tackle more complex and challenging business problems without having to understand data science or go into the internals of a machine learning model. And for the executives, they're getting just a much better experience. They're able to automate more, things are more integrated, so they'll be quicker to deploy as well. So everyone really wins from this. Okay, then lastly, what I want to just cover then is around some examples. So one area is customer churn. So this is an example that we did for a bank, where the way this would work is you would look at the existing customers who have left, take that information for some classic machine learning, try and extract what the trends are, and use that information to predict which of your existing customers is actually at risk of leaving. Now, again, here's where you see the benefit of integrating this. Now, Things that RPA would traditionally do would be things like sending emails out in an automated way, maybe looking at a spreadsheet and based on the contents doing some actions, maybe customizing the emails. What you can do now is you can have your machine learning model that will be able to predict whether someone leaves or not. You would have your RPA at the start. Your robot would go and do the data gathering, something else RPA is very good at. Pull data from these customers from different sources, maybe put that in a format that your machine learning model can cope with. Use your robot to take the data and one by one score your customers and understand their risk of churning. And now, again, you're in the RPA space. Now I can take that spreadsheet, if you like, which has got a list of my customers most at risk of leaving, and some that are kind of borderline, some that have a very high risk. And I can do an automated action. I can send emails to these people. I can maybe send that list to a specific team. You've got that flexibility now that these things are integrated to really handle this and solve the real business problem. Another example, which I'm going to show you now in a demo, is all around sentiment analysis.
Hello everyone, my name is Jeremy Levin, and today I'll be demonstrating employee review analysis with AI Fabric. At a high level, the robot in this automation will navigate to Glassdoor, search a specific company, in this case Facebook, and extract the 30 most recent employee reviews from this company and do sentiment analysis on these reviews. As we dive into the sentiment analysis sequence, you can see the ML skill activity that is connected to the out-of-the-box sentiment analysis model deployed in AI Fabric. Now let's start this automation. The first thing the robot will do is open up Google Chrome, navigate to glassdoor.com, and sign in. Once the robot has signed in, the robot will put in the right search criteria. In this case, it is Facebook, which is a company, and the robot will click search. Now that we are on Facebook's Glassdoor page, the robot will filter the employee reviews by most recent, and the robot will begin to extract the employee reviews. The robot will move from page to page until 30 reviews have been extracted. Once these reviews have been extracted, the robot will close the browser and send these reviews to the out-of-the-box sentiment analysis model hosted in AI Fabric. Next, the robot will format the results in an Excel workbook and email them to an employee. Now that the automation is complete, let's open Outlook and take a look at the email that the robot sent. You can see that the body of the email contains a description of the content in the attached Excel workbook. As we open the Excel attachment, you can see that the robot separated the employee reviews into 3 separate sheets based on the sentiment analysis, either positive, neutral, or negative reviews. Each row contains the necessary information of that employee review, the sentiment analysis of that employee review, and the confidence of that sentiment analysis. Thank you for watching this demonstration of employee review analysis with AI Fabric, and have a great day.
So thank you very much for watching the presentation and sitting through that, and I hope it was useful, and I look forward to your questions in the end of the session.